Welcome to the 24th chapter, book of Acts. We're continuing with Paul in front of the Roman officials in Jerusalem, and it continues in verse 1. And after Pente Imeris, 5 days, Pente, we have the pentagram, 5, and Imeris, ephemeral, is a day. After 5 days there came down the chief priest Ananias with the elders, and a rhetorician, a certain Tertullus, who revealed themselves to the governor against Paul. Hegemony, hegemon is the derivative. This Tertullus is only mentioned here. He was a rhetorician, a person that spoke. In those days they had a lot of speakers, and today we have TV and movies. In those days they had people that spoke. People would go listen to them. And somebody that spoke very well was in high demand, and it sort of took the place of a lawyer. He wasn't an expert necessarily in the law, but he was expert at talking to people, officials, and had probably a fairly decent voice and presentation. So this man was hired. He came down with Ananias, the chief priest, who we mentioned in the last chapter. And having been called, Tertullus himself began to charge, saying, kategorein, we have the category as here is a charge, is what it means in the Greek, saying, polis irenes, poly, many, polygram, and irenes, we have Irene, the name Irene means peace. Great peace is happening through you, and great feats are happening to this nation because of your forethought. He's talking to Felix. Both totally and everywhere, we receive it gladly, most excellent Felix, with all thankfulness. He's buttering him up. This Felix, we'll go over to the Wikipedia. It has an article on Felix. Antonius Felix, here it is, mentions as his cruelty and licentiousness, coupled with his accessibility to bribes, led to great increase in crime in Judea. This period of his rule is marked by internal feuds and disturbances, which he put down severely. You can go into this and see more about Felix. He continues, but so that I should not hinder upon you much more, I appeal for you to hear us so suddenly in your clemency. Still buttering up. For having found this man mischievous, as Paul, and moving insurrection among the Jews in the habitable world, in front rank of the sect of the Nazarenes, this was what the early Christians were called, the Nazarenes. Also the Othos, the way. And there's two different, and then also called them the Christians, Christianos, another place. Here it's the Nazarenes, a sect. Aresios, a heresy, is the derivative. Who also attempted to profane the temple, whom also we seized, and according to our law we wanted to judge. Well, he didn't really profane it. They thought this man was brought in who was not a Jew by Paul, but that never happened, but that's what they heard. But Lysias, the commander, having come by with a great force, took him from out of our hands. Biathlon is the word in the Olympics for something with a force. Took him out of our hieron. Chiropractor is a derivative for that word. Took him out of our hands with a great force, bidding his accusers to come, the kategorus, the accusers, from whom you will be able, he having questioned concerning all these things, to realize what we accuse him. And also the Jews joined in making attack, maintaining these things to suffice. So all the people that were with Tertullus also are all saying, yes, he's saying the right thing. That's exactly right. That's what he was doing. He was in here profaning our temple, and we wanted to attack, and your Roman centurion came in here and stopped it, and yak, 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 and they're all agreeing with this Tertullus. And Paul responded of the governor nodding to him to speak, saying, from many years you being judge to this nation, a Cretan, a critic is the derivative. Knowing this, more cheerfully the things concerning myself, I make a defense. He's saying that, well, you've been doing this for a long time, and I know that you know what's going on, and I'm making an apologume, apology, as a defense in the Greek. You being able to know that there were not more than 12 days to me from which I ascended to do obeisance into Jerusalem, and neither in the temple did they find me with anyone reasoning or causing a conspiracy of a multitude, ochlophobia, fear of a crowd. And neither in the synagogues, the synagogues, nor in the polling, metropolis, the polling, in the city, nor are they able to render proof concerning which now they charge me. They don't have anything. They don't have any proof about all this. But I acknowledge this to you, that according to the way, there it is, the odon, the way, which they call a eresin, a sect, so I serve to the patro, paternal, the patro, and paternal is almost a transliteration, the paternal God, believing in all things according to the law and to the things having been written in the prophets. So he's bringing out his argument. I serve to the paternal God, the same one that they have, believing all the law exactly as they have, which was written in the prophetes, as a transliteration, having a hope in God, which also they themselves wait for, a resurrection about to be of dead ones, both of just ones and unjust ones. So Paul's now bringing here the resurrection, and it's not a resurrection of just the good people, but it's going to be both. And John 5:29 it talks about this, and it says, Jesus says, the ones doing good things unto a resurrection of life, but the ones acting heedlessly unto a resurrection of judgment. And I believe here what's talking about is a resurrection, a judgment of condemnation. Some people may disagree. I think we're all going to be judged, but not everybody is going to be condemned. And this is what I believe this is talking about here, a judgment of condemnation. And in this I discipline myself, not causing anyone to stumble, Paul says, having a conscience towards God and men continually. And he takes this very seriously, and he's preaching this. And after more years I came, offering charity to my nation and offering. So now Paul is referring to what he is coming to do in Jerusalem to Felix, in which they found me purified in the temple. Remember the James and the disciples sent him out of these people, and they cut their hair, the ending of a purification, and he paid for it, and this is what he's bringing up. Not with a multitude, nor with a tumult. There was no problem when he was doing this, but what happened? Certain Jews from Asia, this is where he was, up in Asia, up in which today Turkey, Asia Minor, where he was preaching in Derbe, Lystra, and all these people were attacking him. They were down there in Jerusalem, who must be at hand before you and to charge, if anything they may have against me. So these are the people that have something against me, so they should be here to charge. And let these themselves speak, if they found anything in me for an offense, with my standing before the Synedriu, the Sanhedrin in transliteration, other than concerning this one voice, which I cried out standing among them, that concerning a resurrection of dead ones I am judged today by you, which he said to cause a commotion between the Sadducees and the Pharisees. Pharisees believed in the resurrection. Sadducees didn't. Phonies, the phone, is a derivative. This is why I'm judged by you today, because I stood there and I said about a resurrection. And hearing these things, Felix postponed them, more exactly knowing the things concerning the way. So Felix had heard about the way, knew things about them. And having said, well, whenever Lysias the commander should come down, that's the commander that sent him there, I will determine the things as to you. And having given orders to the centurion to keep Paul, and to let him have relaxation, and for no one to restrain the ones of his own to assist or to come forward to him. So he's giving relaxation, allowing the other people that are with Paul to be able to assist and come forth and help him. And after some days, Felix, having come with Drusilla, his wife, it mentions that Drusilla in his article was his first wife, being Jewish, he fetched Paul and heard him concerning the belief in Christon, Christ. This is a word that doesn't appear in the Old Testament of the King James. The anointed it talks about. But the Christon is a Greek word, so it appears in the Greek Old Testament many places, not always mentioning the Christ as the deity, but sometimes it's an anointed king. And of his reasoning, dialogomenu, dialogue, talking, concerning righteousness and self-control and the judgment about to be, Felix, becoming thrown into fear, responded. So he went further than just talking about the resurrection. He's also talking about what is righteous, the right things to do, righteousness, and self-control. And we just can't do everything, and God is watching, and we are expected to behave a certain way if we are called Christians. Otherwise, may be called Christians, but if you're not doing the things, then it's a waste of time. You're not really the deliverance is going to pass you by. As Jesus said, when who are you? I don't know who you are. They said, well, we spoke in tongues, we did all these different things, did miracles. I don't know who you are. Self-control and the judgment about to be. And so the judgment, people understand the judgment because everybody should be judged for if they're doing something wrong. It's natural to understand that. If you judge a child. If he's doing something wrong, you spank him. Or today, if you spank a child, you probably go to jail, but 2014. But this is what's expected is a judgment. Now, people don't think they're going to be judged. They're called criminals, which we all are, because we do things that are wrong. And maybe we think we're going to get away with them, but we're not going to get away with them. The judgment is going to be there, and we are going to be judged. We are going to be all found guilty, but the people that have Jesus as a lawyer, more if you want to call him that died and paid the penalty, the Redeemer, then we will be delivered from the second death. It mentions that in the book, 20th chapter, I believe, of Revelation. So he's telling them about the judgment. When Felix heard this, he's thrown into fear. Boy, this testimony of Paul really hit Felix. It wasn't just something somebody is speaking and he's sitting back, putting his hands on his head and going, so. He was thrown into fear and responded. For now, it suffices. Go. But a time for sharing, I will call you back. He mentions that he did this for bribes. But at the same time, also hoping that things shall be given to him by Paul, so that he should loose him. So that's why, so he could get things. Therefore, also more frequently fetching him, he consorted with him, just talking about all these things. In a space of 2 years having been fulfilled, Felix received as a successor Porcius Festus. We'll go back to Wikipedia, and then we'll go up to this one here, and there's an article about Porcius Festus. Not a whole lot about him, not as much as Felix, but there's an article. You can check that out, see what it has to say about him. And wanting favors to be laid away with the Jews, Felix left Paul bound. So he's not getting any money from Paul and these people, hoping to get it from the Jews. He kept Paul bound. Chapter 25, then Paul appears before Festus, the next governor, and hope you'll join us in chapter 25 and continue with this story of Paul, and God bless.